Hello and welcome back to the Hyrox podcast. Today we are joined by Zara Piergianni. Oh, I've forgotten Zara. Say it again. Say something.
Piergianni.
Piergianni. Oh, I had it so right.
I was
And I
going to
got
let
it
it
so
roll.
wrong. Zara P, coached by Zara. We're going to start using people's Instagram handles now to address them. So, coached by Zara is joining us today. She is an elite 15 athlete. She's competed in all of the majors this year, well, the three, Stockholm, Chicago, and Vienna. She's also broke the pro doubles age group world record for the 30 to 39 with Kate Davey. And she's here now to give us some hints and tips and let us know about her Hyrox journey, and how it's been competing in all three majors in what it must be about 7 months or something. The
Yeah,
time scale.
it's about that. They were really quick.
Blimey. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Great to be here.
Oh, no, thank you so much. Before we get into Elite 15 and all the racing you've done, we wanted to kind of take it back to the beginning and get a bit of an insight and a background on you. So how did you first get into sport? Have you always been sporty growing up, or what led you to kind of finding Hyrox?
Yeah, so I've always been a really sporty child. When I was younger, I was kind of one of those people that just threw themselves into everything. So through school, anything that was available from like rounders, bench ball, football, netball, I would do. And I remember my mum used to put me in like swimming lessons from a young age. And I did my personal survivals when you have to wear your clothes and pajamas. I don't know if either of you've done them. And my mum honestly used to put me in the heaviest jumper she could find. I actually think that's probably kind of like was like helped my athletic career was kind of like born from, because I just had to stay afloat with this ridiculously heavy jumper, and that's how I was able to build muscle. But no, on a serious note, I've always been quite competitive. My family, like my mum and dad, both played sport. So my mum played netball from quite a young age, and my dad was in rugby and coaching. So I was kind of in like the sporting arena growing up. So naturally, I kind of guessed that, yeah, I just wanted to dabble in everything and be a jack of all trades.
Oh,
Do you have to do the whole blow your pajamas up? You know, when you used to blow
No.
your pajamas up and then tie them, and they used to be like a
Oh,
float.
sorry. Yeah. I know what you mean.
How'd you
Yeah,
do
we
that
did
with a
do
big,
that.
heavy wool jumper?
Yeah, it was impossible. Trust me. Honestly, you should. I will actually send you both the picture just so you can see how ridiculous this jumper was. We've kept it as well.
Oh man.
Love it.
Pass it down to your children when you have them. This is what I had to do.
Here you go. Float.
And then what about, did you go to university, or did you go, yeah, and did you kind of do, I mean, I didn't go to university, so I don't know, but I feel like a lot of people did team sports, or like that went down a certain avenue, maybe had to kind of pick one a little bit more to start going to a club or something and doing that sort of thing. Did you hone in on one sport, or?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So I went to Leeds Beckett University. I did advertising and marketing actually, but I played netball from a young age, and it was really competitive at uni, and managed to get on the team. So in all honesty, I ended up just staying for the 3 years just to play netball. But it was amazing because it was super competitive. Like training was pretty intense. Like I was probably playing every Wednesday, but training was maybe 4 to 5 times a week. So in terms of actually building up stuff like my engine, we did a lot of like strength sessions and things like that. So I guess that's kind of how my background formed, and then it allowed me maybe to move into Hyrox, the race, a little bit easier.
Oh, fair. And did you do any like, obviously netball's at very like interval based, I would say, running? Like did you used to do any longer runs or anything like that? Or was it all just netball, like 20-meter shuttles and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there was a heck of a lot of shuttles. God, I
Yeah.
remember I think it was every Monday morning at like 6:30. We used to just have to do shuttles of the court. It was
Oh.
horrendous. But I've always loved running. Like naturally, I think because it was a bit of a byproduct of being involved in like football, netball, and rounds and stuff growing up. I've always had a good engine and kind of used running, I guess, as a bit of an outlet as well. Like I always find that actually when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed or anxious and stuff, actually going on a long run massively clears my head. So I was probably doing both in tandem. Like I did running from a more of an enjoyment perspective throughout kind of like my younger days in university. But then, yeah, obviously trained both ends of the spectrum from like a sporting perspective as well with the sprint side of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that's good mental strength training, doing 20-meter shuttles. So grim.
I know, it's awful.
Sets you up for grid format, doesn't it? At the elite 15.
Yeah.
Like you're so used to going backwards and forwards.
Yeah, you're like,
I
this
don't
down.
think of that. That grid format, honestly, I remember going into my first race in Washington, and I'd like seen it obviously on kind of like YouTube, and when I went to watch the elite back in Manchester. But turning round on those farmers carries, oh my goodness, it's hell like. Because mental, like I really think the two stations that are the most mental are sort of like the farmers carry and the wall balls. You know, you just have to sort of like grit and go.
Yeah.
And I remember being in Washington, and I mean it's great because you have a judge when you're in the elite 15s, you have a personal judge. And they kind of chat to you before and say, you know, do you like me to talk to you? Like, do you want me to motivate you? Cool. Unfortunately, I had a judge that was great and he was really spurring me on. But yeah, just turning back and forth on that grid with the farmers was tough.
Yeah, because I imagine like, oh, go on.
Sorry, no, go for it.
I can imagine like when you're doing a normal Hyrox, and we've just done the standard ones, like you do have quite a long length to like get to, so you can be like, oh, I'm going to get to the end here, whereas when it's shorter and you're turning, like you don't have such a target to go for to like kind of put a bit of like speed in or try and go there as fast as you can. If you're turning, it's like halts your speed, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. And sort of mentally, I like counting down. I don't know if you girls are the same, but rather than counting up, I always have to work down when I'm like doing reps or things like that. But you think like on the farmer stations, you've probably got like 4 turns. You're like 4, 3, 2, 1. But when you go to elite, it's like 12 or 14. And it just feels so much like bigger and harder because of that. But yeah, just the mental side, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Although it looks quite confusing, like because there's different like lines that you go to on the grid depending on what you're doing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So there's a couple. So you tend to kind of do sort of like the sled stations in one lane, and then you have like a running lane where you'll do things like also your burpee broad jumps and your lunges. Because the meters are slightly different. So obviously you have like 12.5, which would be the sleds. Then I think it might be 15 meters for the burpees and lunges, just to give you that a bit of a longer track to work with him.
Okay,
but yeah, that is confusing.
Yeah, I think just because when you're looking at the screen, I'm like, I don't really know which line they're going to. Like, it's like there's just like a lot of lines, and it seems to change depending on what exercise. I'm like, God, that's like when you're knackered as well. It's quite a lot to like try and focus on, like making sure you do the right amount to the right place. Like, yeah. I feel like
that's the best bit about having a judge.
Yeah, they just somebody to help you.
And tell you where to go.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. How did you hear about Hyrox? Like, online or where did it come from for you?
Yeah, I think it was definitely on Instagram and online, I guess, just as I think it was back in November 2022 was when I did my first race. So actually it was one of my friends that got me into it. I did my first race as a mixed doubles at London Excel, which was a really cool venue. I don't know if you've raced it before. And yeah, he said to me, look, it's got some running in. I obviously had quite a good strength background. Like I've always really enjoyed kind of going to the gym, had a good baseline because I dabbled in CrossFit a little bit. We've moved various places, and I think, you know, joining a CrossFit box was great in terms of like meeting people and that community aspect. So I came into having a good strength base and a good endurance base. And he was like, look, I think this race is like perfect for you. Do you fancy it? Hadn't really done too much research, you know, going into my first race, but gosh, when you get there, when you arrive at the venue and you can hear that loud music and you're looking around thinking, oh my goodness, how on earth am I going to remember which station to go in and out of? It's mad, totally. Isn't it? But it's amazing. So yeah, I ended up doing mixed doubles with a friend, obviously straight in at the pro weights as well. hadn't done too much kind of sled technique work. So my pull, I was like falling over, you know, not using the walk back technique, very trying to do like hand over hand, and I'm definitely not built for it.
Yeah.
But it was great because at least I think it's really good essentially sometimes to do your first race. It's like a doubles or relay, because it's nice to sort of feel the stations, have that little bit of rest, also have someone there that can kind of support you as well. But yeah, we did mixed doubles together. We got a relatively good time in 106, and then he sort of said to me, look, you're really competitive, because I said to him, I love this, like I'm gonna you know, probably focus on it a bit more. And he was like, right, you're too competitive for me, like off you go now.
Off you go. You're on your own.
I'd screamed at him that much on the 1 kilometer runs. There was one point where he was like, I don't know what that's
I don't know why it's done that.
There was one point on the runs where he was like, my calf's feeling really sore. And I was like, this is not a time to be moaning. I was like, we've got like 5 kilometers left to go. Like, suck it up. So
suck it up, get to the next station. Oh man, that's so good. So have you ever done the open weights, or have you just always done pro then? Did you ever?
Yeah, so after I did the pro mix, I did my first solo as open in Bilbao, actually.
Oh, cool.
Bilbao is a beautiful place. Like if ever you get because they do still races there, it's a great venue as well. So did that, and then I qualified for Worlds, and obviously when you qualify, you have to do the pro weight. Yeah. So then after that, I kind of moved into doing pro races just to make sure that I was having that practice kind of going into, well, what would have been Manchester, feeling prepared. So I've only done one, open race.
Yeah, it's kind of a different, it's just a really different beast, isn't it? Because I think because when you go to Worlds, all the weights change anyway. It's kind of like you say, you might as well practice with the weights that you're going to end up using. It makes sense. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I mean, us included, we qualified in the open weight, and then suddenly everything changes and you go to the pro weights, and especially things like the sled. Yeah, we had a massive panic as to whether we'd even be able to get him moving. I was like, oh my God, imagine if we're just there and it's just not moving and we're just stuck on the sled.
Yeah, you're right. It is a massive step up, like in terms of the weights, even things like the kettlebells. And I think I felt really sorry for people that qualified quite late on before the Worlds, because they literally had like a couple of weeks turnaround to start like pushing and pulling these heavy weights. But, you know, I guess I understand why they do it, but that's why it's so important that when you can, to be continuing to push those competition weights in training, like anything you can do to sort of emulate on race day is going to massively help, because then you're less in kind of that fight mode and more in that flow and flight mode going in.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a really good point. So then for racing pro, you then obviously qualified for the Elite 15. Which race was that from?
Yeah, that's right. So with my Manchester time that I got at Worlds, I think I was about a 106. I managed to get one of the roll down spots for for Washington. So actually I got roll down spots for both Washington and Stockholm, and then got my Elite 15 time in Stockholm. So I had my first like proper qualification.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Cool. It's
still a proper qualification. Like I get into
for sure.
top 15 to race, like take nothing away from a roll down spot at all. Like it's still mega. But I know what you mean, like for you as well, like to actually feel like, no, you fully like secured your space, then yeah. And the first one was Washington.
Yes, it was Chicago. Sorry, Chicago. Chicago's the first one. Yes, Washington was the last one that I didn't go to.
So for the first one, you did then have the whole travel and jet lag and probably quite a lot of things maybe going into your race. How did you find like the change from racing at an open race as such with loads of other people to going to like a really intimate, quiet race where there's only 15 of you?
Yeah, I mean, wow, it was tough and it was eye-opening, but I think because it was my first major, it's just super exciting. And, you know, standing on that Elite 15 start line had been a goal of mine probably since starting Hyrox, and I didn't really expect to probably get to the majors as soon as I did. So you know what it's like, you don't really have any pressure on yourself because you're kind of going in as a rookie anyway. But to have that experience, I mean, in any aspect of sport where you're against the best people in the world is great, because you just have to push yourself in performance. And I mean, touching on what you said before, like going to Chicago, the time difference, you know, was tough. And I'm sure a lot of the girls from the UK and like Europe and stuff will say exactly the same. I was quite fortunate because I flew out probably on the Tuesday, and I think we raced on the Friday or Saturday. So I did give myself a little bit of time to kind of get used to everything. But even when it comes to kind of eating schedules and stuff like that, you know, it's really tough to, you know, sort of put all that into practice within a couple of days. But I think the adrenaline, the excitement just sort of carries you through for the first one, because you're just buzzing to be a part of it.
Yeah, you just soak it all up. And like you said, the no pressure probably must have been quite nice for especially for the first one, just to go in and like enjoy it and lap it all up and just take it for what it is, that experience.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a few Brits, wasn't there? Was it you? Was it Kate as well? That was her first one. Was there a few? Was it just you two, or was there a couple of you that was like you were all doing your first Elite 15 race together?
Yeah, I think there was probably about 5 of us, you know. So there was myself and Kate from the UK. Then I think there was Carolina and Daniela Cuso from Spain, Portugal. And then you had like Maria Fessick from Canada. So that was all cool. It was great. And it was really nice to sort of share that experience with those girls, because we'd raced against each other in kind of different races prior to that as well. Like I don't know, I guess you felt a little bit more easy and comfortable knowing that everyone was going through the same emotions as you. But I mean, it was the first major for even the returning girls as well. So it obviously would have been, you know, probably a big moment for them.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for the next one, then a little bit more pressure, did you feel going into that one?
Yeah, so that next one was Stockholm, and there was only about 3 weeks between Chicago and Stockholm. So there wasn't too much time in terms of like from a training perspective to change loads. Like what I had found is after Chicago, I felt that I really struggled on the sleds, and I felt that actually from like a strength and power perspective, the ski really took it out of me too. So I actually just kind of went back into training, did a little bit of strength work, but obviously you know what it's like within 2 weeks, then you're having to go into taper, you can't see masses. I did actually have a bit more of a focus kind of on compromise running as well. But yeah, going into Stockholm definitely felt I felt a lot better with it being in the morning, because I'm definitely a morning person. I love working out kind of first thing. So I think that was about 9 o'clock. But it was nice because I got to kind of meet the girls again, and you know, you sort of just know what to expect in terms of kind of the layout. So yeah, and obviously Stockholm was where I got my overall PB, which was amazing. So it's great to have a course as well with no one on it, and you're not having to scream on your left or
totally
all the time.
Yeah,
it's a dream.
Sure. So do you think that what you did between Chicago and Stockholm and that little bit of training, and then so did you like train for a week and then taper for 2 weeks, or did you just do like a 1 week taper, and do you think that helped you get your PB?
Yeah, I guess so. So I kind of did like a 2 week training block, and then only really a few days taper, in all honesty. I tend to find that I know like taper week's super important in terms of like bringing that volume down, but I've always been someone that I like to keep the intensity quite high. Like I like to be almost in mid block going into a race rather than towards the end, just because I find that I carry in less fatigue and just sort of feel both physically and mentally in better shape. So yeah, for those kind of like 2 weeks, I really focused on just almost doing the stations that felt the most uncomfortable. And it may honestly have been more of a mental thing for me.
Yeah,
like
I was
physically, physically I could have been there, but you know what it's like when you neglect things or things feel hard on the day. Actually going back into your training and, you know, doing a little bit more in it, you've got the evidence, you support yourself, and you've got the evidence to go, actually I can do this going into race day.
Yeah, you've been thinking like, I've trained this a bit more, so that mentally can help you when you're pushing it, thinking, no, I've put the work in, so this should be feeling better, and it can just kind of flick that switch a little bit, can't it?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we touch on like the physical and like mental side of the sport. And for me, like they are both so closely interlinked. Like I always say to myself that you create something first in your mind, and then kind of you have to provide yourself with the evidence physically that you can do it or that you can perform, I guess. And I think, you know, I've spoken about it like before to clients and other athletes and things. I don't think actually at the moment there's a lot out there from like a mental perspective to support athletes, especially kind of athletes going into, you know, their first race for the first time. I think there's definitely more that and accessible information that could be out there. I don't know if you girls watch any of the Netflix documentaries like Breakpoint or Formula One. Have you seen any of them?
No,
The tennis
no,
one.
no, I've not seen them. We look a lot into like psychology, and just from our background and some of the stuff we've done, we've like delved into it and worked with a lot of psychologists and sports psychologists, but not seen the documentaries, no.
Yeah, what all it is they're documentaries on Netflix, and they kind of follow the teams or athletes, and it's really like raw footage about, you know, their races or their matches. But actually, what you particularly find in the Breakpoint one is there are so many athletes that struggle with the mental side of the game, and I think it's really helpful now that it's breaking the stereotype of just because someone is physically fit or physically strong or at the top of their game in a sport, it doesn't automatically correlate to them being mentally tough. You know, in the same breath, like everyone goes through exactly the same emotions and worries and concerns and things. So yeah, it's a minefield, and I think even the mental side of the racing and stuff is still something that I'm trying to work on with myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, no, we were gonna ask that question, so we might as well continue on it just now. But like, do you train anything specifically to help with your mental gain, or do you do anything to try and improve that, whether it's sport related or not, or whether it's something like ice baths or speaking to a sports psychologist? Is there anything you do personally to try and like better yourself mentally when you are going into these situations?
Yeah, a couple of those things. So I do like a good ice bath, and I think whilst the physical benefits are amazing, I know that face, they are horrendous.
I hate them. Em loves them.
I love them. Faye hates them, but I make her do them. So. We're on board.
They are like
We're on
Marmite.
board.
Yeah, I really do enjoy kind of an ice bath, and I, like I said to you at the start, we're having kind of a renovation at the minute, so our garden is just like soil, so I have my ice bath in the middle of soil, so it really, I know, it really is like a resilience test every time I go in there, and I'm looking around thinking it's tough. Why? Trying to take myself to the Caribbean right now. But I do a lot of reading. I've recently finished a couple of books actually. One's called Relentless and one's called Winning, and it's by a guy called Tim Grover. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he used to coach Kobe and kind of Michael Jordan in the basketball space. And anyway, he touches kind of on like understanding the mentality and kind of a different perspective around winning and what it takes. And so I do enjoy doing some reading around it. But I think for me, my training is my evidence that I should be able or can perform. Like when you go into race day, you know, all you're basically doing is kind of showing off or, you know, doing kind of working to your training that you've been, the hours that you've been putting in. So I guess there's a few things. Yeah, absolutely. The ice baths, the cold showers and stuff, anything that is uncomfortable, do it more, because things like the Hyrox race is very uncomfortable. But exactly like you said, if you're speaking to psychologists or, you know, lots of great Instagram accounts where you can kind of learn from different athletes and sports and stuff is super helpful as well.
And do you, like Emma obviously touched on what you do for yourself. I know you coach a lot of athletes and you're a coach, and do you do this with your like clients and your athletes, or do you have like a mental strand to your training? Or
yeah, of course. I mean, from a mental perspective, I think being a coach, and I'm probably quite similar to you girls, so when I think about taking someone on a journey, it's really important to understand their background, kind of what they've going on, what they've got going on in their personal lives. So be it kind of work, be it relationships, you know, be it their nutrition, because all of those things are interlinked. And all of those things are kind of interlinked from that mental perspective too. So I wouldn't say I have like specific strategies with clients, but actually it's just having the openness and conversations with them to understand what's going on in their life and where I might be able, you know, to support, whether it be changing up their training. But if we specifically talk about Hyrox, and I think about my clients, like in the training, it's so important to get them to a place where they are starting to feel how it's going to feel on race day, in terms of everything from fueling, you know, everything to doing the stations, compromise running, etc. So like I said earlier, so they're going into that race not kind of having any sort of surprises. I guess it's going to throw them off both their physical and mental game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think preparation is like the key to everything, isn't it? I think if you do everything you can to prepare the best you can, if something happens that's out of your control, it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's like, I don't know, like running a marathon and it's snow and there's nothing you can do because it's snowing. Like, but I think if you can do everything in your control, then you can go in with a really strong mindset that you've done everything you possibly can. So it's just time to go and enjoy the day, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. So I obviously did the race with Kate quite recently in pro doubles, and I have like an oil intolerance, so eating and stuff can be a bit of a nightmare if I go to restaurants. So when I go away, I have to tend to stay in Airbnb just so I can control what I have. But actually we stayed in the hotel, and normally I'm really regimented and routine like in terms of my training week and how I prepare for race day. But with the doubles, because we stayed in a hotel and we were in kind of Glasgow, we didn't know kind of where to go. Everything was sort of done on the fly, but I was so much more relaxed. And I actually think it benefited me more on the day because I was just able, and it obviously helped doing it with someone, sharing the load, like it's fun and it's exciting. But I was kind of thinking back that actually I don't need to be as regimented in terms of saying I need to be asleep by X o'clock, because like you said, there's always going to be external factors that potentially could throw you off. So whilst it's great to have a routine, it's actually really important to have the flexibility in the routine so that just in case one thing doesn't happen perfectly, that's then not going to throw you off kind of your mental game preparation for the race.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because then you can end up over analyzing and stressing that, like, it's the whole I'm not asleep yet, oh my god, but that means I've got one more hour less sleep, and then you kind of like go round and round and then you can't sleep. But it's like you say, then you'll kind of pick on those points and like almost blame them or use them as an excuse as to why you maybe haven't performed as well. Whereas if you actually have a little bit of flexibility towards it, you might be a bit kinder to yourself, and it could pay off. Yeah, anyway. Oh, no.
I think when you say like that, Zara, I don't know whether you thought the same. We were working with a sports psychologist like a couple of years ago, and he said we were doing a challenge, like running some marathons back to back, and he said, what's your plan? And we were like, oh, we're going to be out every day at 10. Like, we'll be out every day at 10, we'll get it done. And he was like, okay, reframe your mind and be like, okay, I'm going to get out around about 10. He was like, because if you say every day you're getting out at 10, if you get out at 10 past 10, you already feel like you failed because you didn't get out at 10. And then that goes on to the next thing, on to the next thing. But if you go, oh, I'll go around about 10, and you're a bit more flexible in what you do, then it doesn't throw you off straight away at the beginning of the day. So maybe, like you said, not being so rigid sometimes. It's just like everyone gets taught, or you look on Instagram and you watch what everyone does and they're like, I always take these in the morning, I always train at this time, I'm always back at this, I always have my, like, sometimes having a bit of flexibility and not being super strict with yourself might just allow you to go into everything a little bit more relaxed, which then might have its benefits as well.
100%. And you know, I'm probably quite similar to you. Like, I work with loads of clients that have manic jobs, they have children, they have so many other areas in their life that ask a lot of their time. So, you know, when it comes to kind of things like training or nutrition, they can't be on it 100%, you know, all the time. So like you said, having that level of flexibility and going, actually looking at it day by day or week by week, what is realistic for me to do today? And actually, if I still get it ticked off my list, then amazing. It doesn't matter if it, like you say, it's a couple of hours later.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you take anything from this podcast, like that's the thing to take, because it's so key. I think, like, just, and don't be too hard on yourself and too structured. Okay, cool. What about for highs and lows then of your whole Hyrox journey? Like, what would you say are like some peaks, and then what would you say are maybe some lower moments, or how have you kind of got yourself through them?
So I'm quite lucky. Obviously, I've been in the sport a couple of years. I probably had more highs than I have lows. I guess my highs would obviously be competing at the majors, you know, kind of against the best in the world. Actually, more broadly, getting to see so many different cool cities. Like, I love traveling and being able to kind of go and race and, you know, actually see different things, try different foods and stuff like that has been great. And do you know what? It's funny, like, my family always support me, and my dad thinks he's my coach, but he's not. He comes everywhere with me, and that's been really, really fun. Like,
oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, relationship has actually, like, not got better because it was never bad, but it's just great that we've grown more close there, and we've kind of both found a love for the sport. You should hear, by the way, the things that he shouts at me during the race. When I watch the videos back and I hear him, because half the time you obviously switch off
in the zone. Yeah.
I think, what on earth is he saying? He loves it. And obviously the recent race, you know, breaking the world record with a really good friend of mine, Kate, was awesome. So they're definitely the highs, and also the community. Like, I've got so many people that I've never met before, and we're almost like best friends. Like, they're so supportive, and they always look out for me and, you know, cheer me on, and vice versa. And I think that's super nice, and probably, like I said earlier, what I kind of wanted from the CrossFit world in terms of that community space. But I think with Hyrox, you know, it's massive and it's spread across the globe, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
And then I guess the lows. So, I mean, I've probably only had a couple of, like, bad races relative to me that I would say were lows in terms of, like, didn't fuel properly. But more broadly, sometimes the low can be quite lonely. And what I mean by that sometimes is when you are an athlete, like, my nutrition has to be, you know, on point. Like, training does take a lot of my day up. I am a full-time online coach, and I'm kind of balancing that, being a really good wife and a good friend and keeping in touch with everybody. And sometimes I think that's a little bit, like, overlooked, because I don't think that I'm able to give my time to everyone that I would like to, because I physically haven't got that many hours in a day. So I think sometimes the low would just be, just maybe trying to kind of, like, balance everything in terms of what comes with being an athlete. But then there are so many more highs that outweigh those times. But I think sometimes, again, that's probably not spoken about enough sometimes, how, you know, it's a tough gig. Even anyone looking to compete at any race in Hyrox and having to train as hard as they do, it takes its toll on you, and definitely relationships when people might not be in that same arena as life and have the same goals as you.
Yeah, that's a really, really valid point. And it's the same thing. I think it probably feeds into the mental like discussion we were just having as well, about being flexible and not being putting too much pressure on yourself. And sometimes recognizing, I mean, you're saying, like, you're the top of the sport and you're still trying to juggle, like, a full-time online coaching job with your training. And, like, everybody else, you know, people have got kids, people have got, like, jobs, they're commuting, people are trying to get to a gym. I mean, what do you train at home? Do you have to commute to a gym? Like, where do you do your training?
Commute to a gym, which is only about 7 minutes from home, which is great and very precise.
That's handy.
Every time I get in my car, my watch is like, 7 minutes to so-and-so gym.
Home. 7 minutes home.
It's like reset, factory setting style of gym is my home. No, but I am really lucky, yeah. So I tend to go to gym, and it's quite nice because, I mean, like I said, we're having the house done, so it's just a bit horrendous at the moment, but it's also quite nice that I have to go somewhere else to do my training, kind of then I can come back, decompress, and then that's sort of the environment that, you know, like, me and my husband are together, which is quite nice.
And has your husband done a Hyrox? Is he interested, or is he like, it's all you? I'll go to the cities with you. I'll go out for dinner in Vienna, but I'm all right. You can do the racing.
I'm trying to get him to do a doubles with me. So my husband plays professional sport anyway, so he can't actually come because he plays at the weekend. He can't actually come to a lot of my races, so he just has to watch them on YouTube or whatnot. But we have agreed that when his season finishes, if we can kind of align the times, then he will do a Hyrox with me. Because I want him to feel it.
I know. What sport does he do? Football, rugby?
Football.
God, you guys have got all the shuttles. That's another interval-based, shuttle-based training, isn't it?
About it.
Flying around the track. Oh, I love it. Oh no, that's ace. You should definitely make that happen. I'm intrigued now.
I know who's going to be who. Who's going to be dragging who around on the runs? I wonder.
I know. I think. Do you know what? He used to be the better runner, but not anymore. Not anymore.
That's one way to make this back. That's one way to make him do a doubles, just to prove a point, isn't it?
Yeah. Show me he's capable. But yeah, watch this space. It's funny though because when I've been in the gym, for example, on the sleds, and he sort of comes over and we'll try and jump in a set. It's great that sometimes it's like, actually, the sleds are quite heavy. Like, you actually do have to be quite strong. And I'm like, see? Sometimes people look at it and go, oh, I can do that easy.
I think that's true though, especially the pro weights. I'm like, you do have to remember that the pro weights are like the same as the men's open weights. So like the general male population competing going in at open is what like the females are then pushing when they're competing at pro level. And it's like the sleds are heavy. Like a few of our mates have done it and then been like, oh god, yeah, and we're like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Like it's not just a piece of cake. It doesn't just glide along the floor as much as we would hope it did. Like it does, as with everything else added in, it does add up. Like
it does. What it's like with the carpet can be completely different from event to event, and it'll be interesting. We're getting new kits, aren't we? I think the first, and they used the new kit in Washington. I think the first race is maybe Cologne, which is my next race actually. So cool. I'll feedback how it is for you.
So when's Cologne? How many weeks away is that?
It's like 3-4 weeks now.
3-4 weeks.
Last chance qualifier, so big race.
And is that for, you're doing last chance qualifier for the Worlds to get into the Elite 15 for the Worlds?
Yeah, so there's yes, that's right. There's 7 spots available, I believe. Ooh. And then the last chance qualifiers, the first one is Cologne and the next one is in Anaheim a couple of weeks later. Yeah, America. So you've got 3 spots at Cologne, I believe 4 in Anaheim. And then whoever podiums obviously gets the elite spots. So exciting.
Brilliant.
Very exciting. Well, I was about to ask the next kind of question I was going to go on to was future goals, targets, and so I'm guessing the next one in the next few weeks is to hopefully qualify for the Worlds. And then is there a bigger picture at all that you want to share? You can keep your cards close to your chest, but do you want to keep competing in the sport solo? Sorry, I lost the word there. Are you planning to do any more doubles, except maybe with your husband? Like, what's your general kind of race outlook looking like?
Yeah, I think obviously I would still look to continue to compete solo, providing I hopefully get the qualification in Cologne. I might look at maybe doing some fun races in inverted commas with a couple of friends, so teaming up to do doubles. But I guess my long-term goal, I'd love to be stood on the start line in the Elite 15 in Nice, but actually if that's not the case, then I'm still there with my age group, so I'll go and make a lovely holiday out of it, and it'll be a really nice bookend to the season as well. But even further than that, I'm just thinking continue to hopefully compete in the sort of field going into next season, and continue to see what I can do.
See where it goes. No, that's exciting. I mean, you've proved yourself already, but I'm sure you feel like you've still got a lot more that you can give to the sport as well.
It's kind of like those targets though, isn't it? You get one. So like you wanted to get in the Elite 15, you got in the Elite 15, you've done 3 majors, you're like, okay, cool, what's next? Okay, next one is to get in it for the World. Like you're always going to start. It's like when you get fitter, the Hyrox races will never get easier. Like competition, like running race, Hyrox race, anything ever gets easier when you get fitter. You just push a bit harder, so it always hurts.
Yeah,
So
you're
you're just always
absolutely
going to
right.
put that barrier higher, aren't you?
Yeah, and it's, you know what, the best thing is, like, I absolutely love the hybrid approach to training, and that's the best thing for me in terms of like Hyrox. You know, it touches strength, power, endurance, running, etc. And I think that's where I get my enjoyment. So I guess that's why it continues to be a passion for me, and that I've continued to got goals in the sport.
Yeah, if you enjoy doing it, then like you're onto a winner, aren't you? 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what about tips then for anyone racing Hyrox? Do you have a top 3 tips that you kind of like go by, or for people that are in the sport already or people looking to get into it, either or? Do you have 3 things that you follow?
Yeah, so I guess anyone that's looking to do their first Hyrox, and I know this is said a lot, but do not get to the venue too early. There's so many of my clients, like, it's so exciting and the adrenaline's flowing, and you know, you want to watch your friends and be there and look at how everything, all the sleds are moving, etc. But as you guys know, it's super draining, and it can take a lot out of you. So, you know, if you are racing, I would only get to the venue like maximum kind of an hour and a half, maybe two, like, yeah, an hour 15 beforehand. Make sure obviously you have a good warm up and you know where the stations are, but don't get there too early. I think second would be, don't neglect your running. Like, when it comes to Hyrox, I know sometimes you look at the 8K and go, easy, like I can do that on a Sunday, no worries. But it's a whole different ball game trying to do that between stations and doing it compromised. So for me, if there's one thing to really focus on, like the different running stimulus, from making sure you're training your, you know, intervals, like top end speed, but actually the zone 2, sort of the longer steady state stuff, is super, super important, because at the end of the day, it makes up 50% of the race running. And I guess the last one, like, if you're thinking about doing your first Hyrox, like, go out and enjoy it. Like we said earlier, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I think it's great for your first race to go in, get a good baseline. It's brilliant that you have access to the data, so that then you can kind of go away, think about how stations felt. And then if you wanted to do another one after that, then you can put the training blocks and focuses in place. But yeah, just go and have fun in the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the running one for sure. I feel like it's a good tip. I think a lot of people do think, oh, 8K, I can run that easily, but it catches up with you if you've not got that baseline running in. Like, I think as soon as your heart rate goes up and then you don't have that, like, there is no recovery time in Hyrox. Like, you know, people, there is the rock zone, but generally when you're racing, you know, you're running through that anyway, because you're just trying to get through it as quick as you can, like, and then you're just straight back onto the run. So it's an important one to get that baseline running in. Do you do like double days training, or do you do like hard days, easy days, or what's your general kind of structure?
Yeah, so I probably do like 3 double days, but I mean, I've recently started working actually for myself, 2 new coaches. And by the way, I'm like a massive supporter of, even as a coach, you still need a coach in life, whether it's in like the mental side, you know, whether it's in coaching. So I've just started working with Tom and Dina Hogan, who are awesome, like really helped me, especially with my running. But yeah, so I have probably 3 double days. I mean, we're quite clever in terms of how we put things together. So for example, I might have quite an intense strength session, but then I'll have like an easy, maybe like a steady state zone 2 run in the evening. And then if I have kind of quite intense workouts, they'll be probably a little bit shorter. So again, like, we're not overloading the body and I'm not kind of reaching burnout in any way. I think one thing that's been really good recently is building in these recovery weeks and kind of these deload weeks. And sometimes I don't think, as athletes, they're really overlooked. And I know what it's like. It's so frustrating when you feel at the top of your game and then you see recovery week or deload week and you're like, I'm going to lose all my fitness, all my strength gains. But I've just come off the back of one last week and I felt exactly like that last Monday. Like, I messaged Tom and I was like, have my workouts been, like, have they all been uploaded?
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, like, I'm refreshing the app, like, sorry, I've literally got like only view.
Where's the rest of my training?
I said, it. So real talk. And he said, look, we're on recovery week. But I actually didn't realize how much I needed that recovery week from a mental capacity perspective, even more so than physical. And coming into this week, like, it's back to hell week, as he would say. And it is, because we're straight back into it. But I'm feeling like really good. I'm recovering well. So actually, like, if anyone takes anything away from this, in the recovery week, you are not going to lose any of your strength gains or your kind of fitness and stuff. Like, focus on things like really good hydration, like quality sleep, quality nutrition. And, you know, then you'll go back into kind of your next training week feeling super, you know, better and kind of ready to take on the next training block.
I think that's like so important to say. I mean, we've had it with so many athletes, and people are like, "Oh, you're feeling nice this week," and I'm like, "No, just recover." And they're like, Can I change my deload week? So I'm on holiday in 4 weeks time and I'll just take it that week." And I'm like, "No, you need it now." It's like a negotiable, but it's not a negotiable. And I think you're right. If you actually do adhere to it, and then the next week when you get back into it, you feel really good. You don't realize how much you needed that time for your body to just like repair and reset, and even like mentally to reset, to then hit it again before you reach burnout and you're forced to take a recovery week or 3 weeks or 7 weeks because you get injured or you burn out or something happens and it stops you in your tracks. So yeah, it's like taking that proactive approach and that scheduled approach to allow your body to adapt to the stimulus of all the training that you're putting in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's like, that's
no, go on.
No, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, we also like really do agree with, like, even though you're a coach, like, you look to be coached by people as well, because it helps hold you accountable and it helps make you do the things like the deload week, because otherwise you can kind of get lost in this, like, you just kind of keep going, or you're not prioritizing your training because you're coaching other clients, so you're more worried about what all your other clients are doing than what you're actually doing. So I do think, like, I very much agree with that. Even if you're a coach, it doesn't mean you can't have a coach.
No, exactly. Like, you know, we're all learning loads of different aspects in life, and you're absolutely right. I felt that I was coaching everybody else, and then I was my own coach for, you know, probably a good like 6-7 months, and I was getting to my sessions and I wouldn't have finished them, or I thought, oh, you know, I'll sort out what I'm doing at the back end of the week tomorrow. And then you sort of lose your focus and lose what the training block goal is. So, and it's massively helped, like you said, having someone to make you accountable and to give you that direction too.
Somewhat objective.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like we could chat for hours, but I'm going to go on to the cheeky insights now. So this is a set of 8 questions that we ask all of our guests, just to find out a little bit more about like their favorites to do with Hyrox. And the first question being, what shoes do you wear to race Hyrox in? Which is what is on every forum, but I'm still asking it week on week, so I want to know.
I like it. No, it's good. I'm always really interested to hear what people say. I wear the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, but I also am a massive fan of, I do wear the Puma DV8 Nitros too.
2 of the most popular, right?
They are.
I know, exactly.
I feel like we need to keep a tally, and they are winning, like, for sure. Faye just bought a pair of those Saucony ones, didn't you, as well? So we need to test them out.
Well, everyone keeps talking about them, so I was like, I'm gonna grab them. I'm a Nike girl or Nike girl. I've always worn those, but I don't know, they're good. They're great for running, but I just don't know how good they'll be for like an actual Hyrox with the stability and stuff of trying to do like lunges and stuff. And a few people have said, yeah, with the Vaporflies, the back of them get stuck in the rower.
Yes,
they've got like a point.
That was my problem. Yeah.
Have you raced in them? Okay.
I haven't raced in them, but I used to do all my running in Nike Alphas, and then with the row, I actually put my foot in it, and then the polystyrene bit kind of like broke off a little bit. So
ooh, they're very expensive nowadays.
They're very expensive.
You're like, where's the back of my shoe gone?
Yeah, it's just super glue it back on.
Oh, that would break me. That would break me. I couldn't do it. I'm happy to just buy another pair of trainers, though. I'm all good.
Any excuse. Okay, next one. What venue's your favorite Hyrox venue? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think it would probably have to be Manchester. So I think that was where I did my first, obviously, World Championships, which was amazing. And we lived in, I'm not from Manchester, obviously, but we lived there for a while. So it's a great city.
Yeah, no, I love that one. That's been a few people's favorites. It's a good one. Okay, which is a favorite Hyrox station and why?
Have to be the lunges for me. I think
Okay.
probably first off where they are in the race, because you think, right, you know, you're nearly done now, you've just got kind of like the wall balls to go. But I've always been kind of really strong in single leg stuff. And it's just a bit like you kind of get in the momentum and that kind of takes you forward. So yeah,
How did you find the lunges moving like on the grid system versus like a normal race? Did you find it harder because you had to turn more, or
yeah, definitely. Again, quite similar to the farmers carry. It was harder because you did have to turn more. But yeah, not too bad. Like I said, they've always been probably a strength of mine. So I look forward to doing them, and I do quite a lot in my training and stuff. So yeah, it kind of comes second nature.
Oh,
what about, does it make a difference, like, you know, because you're all in a line as such, like, does it spur you on more to try and catch people as opposed to like the race where it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy because you don't know who you're really racing because of the like waves and stuff, like because you can actually see like I'm in line with this person or this person's however many paces? Does it help you like speed up or carry on? Or yeah
100%. Yeah, you're absolutely right, it really does, because you can essentially see how far in front, or more so for me in the majors, how far behind you are from someone, to make sure you keep up with them. So it is great because you're super close in the lanes. And yeah, by all means, especially when it comes to kind of the sleds or burpees and stuff. I mean, Kate Davey, she is unbelievable on the burpees, and often we're quite close when we race against each other. So there's been a few times where I've literally just tried. It's been great because I've had a pacer. I've just tried to stay on her heels. So yeah, it's actually quite advantageous from that perspective.
And for lunging, do you step through or do you pause? Do you put?
I mix it up. So I tend to, as I first go into lunges, I tend to step through every time, but then probably maybe I would maybe switch every like 10 to 12 maybe, and then I would step through just to make sure that, especially towards the end of the station, as I know I'm going directly out on the run, like anything to kind of give my body a little bit more of a break in terms of that extra millisecond stepping up. Yeah, I always make sure I do.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I mean, I feel like we've maybe answered this question. If you could do a doubles Hyrox with anyone in the world, who would it be? Would you choose your husband, or would you choose someone else?
Way cooler people.
Okay, so someone else, someone more exciting.
Sorry, Carl. You know, I'd love to do it with Tia Toomey. Because she's such a badass, isn't she? And even having, you know, she's had a daughter so recently, and I've even been seeing her in the CrossFit Games, obviously the CrossFit Open. Sorry, I think she'd be wicked to do it with. I just think, yeah, she's awesome. Should pull me through.
Oh, God, she would fly through like those sleds, and like like there would be no stepping back with that sled pull. There would just be like,
that is true. I'd have to work on my hand over hand. I think I was going into that.
Oh no, good one. Okay, next up is about fueling. Do you fuel during the race, and if so, what do you use and when do you use it?
So I don't actually, and I know this a lot of the elite athletes do. They tend to carry things like jelly babies. Lauren Weeks is renowned for carrying Sour Patch Kids, but for me, I tend to find that I just work best when I don't have anything, because I always have this scare of how it sits on my stomach, and I know I've got a pretty fragile stomach. However, pre-race, I do like using the Morton MAURT and those gels. And they have like caffeine electrolyte in. But I recently have actually started experimenting with a couple of gels in my training session. So it might be something that I implement maybe going into the next few races, maybe after Cologne. But I think the best time to probably take it for me would be around the row, like that halfway point. And also you need to kind of have it when you've got a little bit of time. So I think probably if you're going to take it maybe after the row before going into that run, and then you've only got that 50% left.
And do you feel like you feel it racing, that you haven't taken anything, or that's just your body's used to kind of going for that hour without, so it can push through on what you've taken prior?
Yeah, I think I'm really hot on my fueling ahead of the race. So in the lead up, in the a couple of days before, like I do up my carbs slightly. I do make sure I'm super hydrated with electrolytes, and kind of that meal that I have maybe 3 hours before the race, I tend to have oats, banana and honey, something really simple that I know is going to sit on me okay. That's a really high carb meal for me. So actually that's where I'm kind of getting my fuel from. And I think I agree with you. I haven't really had any comparison actually. So it would be interesting for me to take probably a gel in a proper race format to see how I feel. But I don't even have any water. I tend to go the full race.
I think that is quite common, isn't it? I mean, we got told off, well, not told off, but the first race we did was like more just to see how it goes. We didn't really have any idea. We just did it as a bit of fun as the doubles. And then we were speaking to Jade Skillen, and we told her that we used the run as recovery and we took water at every opportunity. And she was like, what were you girls doing? Like, come on. She was like,
I was like, do you not recover on the runs? I was like just one lap. We just like gave ourselves a second. She was like, no, that is like the opposite way to race. And we were like, oh, right, okay. And she was like, how much water do you have? And Em was trying to stop me taking water. I was like, 2 seconds, I just need a sip.
I can imagine you girls doing like cheering after every station. The water, like, we've done it, we've done one more. Have a little break.
Literally, this is the problem when you go from like running marathons into like a much shorter race. We're just used to like taking on all the fuel, all the water as much as we can, and
we're then, like so important to fuel.
Yeah, we kind of maybe got it a little bit wrong. She was like, think how much time you could have saved, and we were like, yeah, good point. So I do think it's quite common that people don't take water on during the race. I think I'm presuming.
Do you not like just hate how dry your mouth goes though?
Yeah, there's nothing like it, is there?
It's unreal. Like we were talking to Jake Williamson, and he was saying about like he might start chewing gum or something because his mouth goes so dry.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad shot. I think I probably choke on it though. But
yeah, so would I. Oh yeah.
After the race, especially when we were racing like in the majors, you obviously have like your sports bra, and you finish the race and you've got like crust on your face, crust on your lip, and you're trying to use a little bit of your sports bra to honestly, it's a nightmare. But again, in training, I do try, and especially in my kind of more simulation or long engine workouts, I try and reduce the amount of water or fuel that I have, essentially, so that my body doesn't really need it going into race day. But on some of the venues where it's been super warm, really hot in there, yeah, it can take its toll, definitely.
Does anyone in the Elite 15 drink any water?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of, probably not the likes of maybe the top 5, but I have seen girls, take it before, there is a drinks table.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, aren't they? Especially for fueling, everyone's got different strategies, and everyone's stomachs are different and bodies react differently. So there's no like one rule fits all, but it's just interesting to know what different people do. Okay, next up is your favorite training session for Hyrox. Do you have type
I think, yeah, I mean, I love a really long engine grinder, like, something that's probably anywhere between, I don't know, the 40 and 70-minute mark, something you can really just switch off to, and it's just almost like an AMRAP type of format. You get your headphones in, and it's a real like gritty workout, maybe some running, maybe some sleds in there.
Nice. Yeah, that's like my kind of favorite. I like it. You can just kind of, you don't have to think too much, you just carry on, get it done, suffer.
Not the short sharps stuff. Like when I see like erg intervals, these are all out efforts, I'm like, oh my gosh, it kills me.
Really
really though.
It's not necessary.
So hard.
Totally with you. I'm with you. Okay, why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
Oh, I mean, look, if you listen to this conversation and obviously even people you've spoken to before, like I even think it's just an amazing, like it's so anyone can do it, so accessible is in terms of the race, like
Yeah.
even setting yourself a goal, like it's just amazing. And you know, going to experience that kind of event, there is just nothing like it. There's no other race that could compare. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to go and do it, just as a bit of a test of their mental and physical strength. And I think it's awesome now that we're seeing a lot of more gyms become affiliates. You know, there's races all over the UK and the globe that you can kind of get involved in and stuff. So yeah, now is the time to sort of dip your toe in and then get the Hyrox bug.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so accessible as well. It's great.
Mm.
Okay, final one. Who would you love to see on our podcast? Do you have any suggestions for us of people we could reach out to?
A couple of people. So I think it would be interesting to talk to Nat Boyle and Amber Ruddle, who obviously they're like the back end, aren't they? They're kind of like
Yeah.
the UK event producers. I think it'd be really interesting to see
From an
actually sort of their
organisers.
experience. Yeah, exactly. Or I tell you who I thought, the lady Christy O'Donnell, I think she's called. She won Houston, and she's come from a CrossFit. She was a CrossFitter, but she
Oh,
recently won
yes.
Christy and like did it in 104. Again, I think it's quite interesting talking to someone that's come from completely different sort of like background, like CrossFit side of things, to see how she went into the race, how she prepared, and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I started following Christy just a couple of weeks ago. So
Mm,
yeah, definitely was on my
impressive.
radar. Yeah, very impressive. So no, that would definitely be a good one.
I think
Oh,
the Nat and Amber one is good as well. We've been talking to Nat Boyle actually to like have a chat
Yeah.
with her. They're just so busy, like so
I know,
busy.
yeah, I was gonna
That's
say.
yeah, like literally that's like one of the biggest things is like you just realize how busy those guys are putting all these races on and doing everything around the background to try and like
Yeah,
get them going,
so
especially
true.
the UK ones because they're so big.
I know.
But yeah, we'd love to try and have a chat with them because I think it would be really nice to see from an organizer point of view, but like
Yeah.
what that feels like because it must be just I can't
Oh,
even imagine
I
trying to
take
put
my,
something
I
like that on.
know. I take my
chaos.
hat off to them. Yeah, it must
Yeah,
be. It
chaos.
takes some serious organisation, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I was going to add one more question on just because it was Jane from Erg Army that suggested that we should get you. We've been following you for a while, so you were definitely down for us to come and chat to. But one of her biggest things that we said we'd start to add in on a question, just because of her background, is damper setting. When you jump on that ski and you jump on that row, what do you have your damper set to?
So my damper setting on the ski, I normally have a 4, and for the row, I normally go 5. And you know what? It was really funny because when I did my first major in Chicago, that's when I met Jane for the first time. The
Okay.
night before I was racing, and we literally had like a one-on-one with her for maybe 5 to 8 minutes. And she was by myself and Kate on the ski and on the row. And she was the one that taught me about damper setting. And actually, I used to have it on kind of 7 and 8, but just found that because I'm probably, compared to the other elite girls, in terms of like strength and power, I would prefer more like endurance strokes. You know, I would do more strokes and to kind of get that power and get obviously the pace down. And yeah, Jane just helped me understand that, you know, actually the damper isn't aligned to kind of how strong you are. It's just the air that goes in and out, and she massively helped me with technique and stuff. So I've definitely reconsidered my damper, but it's something you've got to try in training as well. Like
Sure.
I said this before, I tried to play about with the damper in terms of trying to build power. So on the ski, some of the intervals, I might put it at 8 or 9 for shorter sprints, again, just to try and get myself kind of building that power. And then when I go back down to 4, it feels a lot easier and I can hold that pace for longer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think
It's
such
so interesting.
Yeah, we were like blown away with our chat, weren't we, with Jane? And then I think it's really interesting, especially at your level, because like you're all really good runners, you're all strong. So where are you going to make these little gains? And like that's the kind of place where you can look, isn't it, to make the gains on things like the ergs or technique with things that I don't know, the sled pull, the sled push, little things like that can give you guys the edge.
Yeah, well, you're
100%.
searching for the efficiency, aren't you? You know, like you've all got that top level like endurance, power, and everything. It's how efficient you can be to like using the equipment and like to make those marginal gains. You know, it's like seconds, isn't it? But
it's the 1%ers, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so where can people follow you and your journey? And is there anything else you want to share with our listeners that you can think of?
I mean, look, first off, to say a massive thank you to you. Like what you're doing in this space, it's great to see kind of like a female-led Hyrox podcast. I know there are some awesome ones out there still at the moment. People can find me at Coached by Zara on Instagram. I am an online coach. Like if you are looking to do your first Hyrox or returning or want to do, you know, race, marathon, or just get fitter and some accountability, like by all means, give me a follow, ask me any questions. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been a really good chat. I've loved it.
Oh, it's been amazing, and really appreciate your time. Definitely, because taking time out of it, like we just said, to like you're coaching, you're having house renovations, you've got your training to fit in. And yeah, building up to your next race in Cologne. Good luck with that. We'll definitely be following. If anyone wants to follow you, yeah, jump on Coach by Zara. At Coach by Zara on Instagram. You can follow us at rad_chicks_, and please, follow the show for more and share this episode. Spread the love for Zara, and let's follow her as she goes into the world champs. And maybe one day you might see her racing with her husband in a doubles. Either that or tier 2 me. We'll see which one happens first. But otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you on the next episode.